right, this go around be looking at Scouse Not English. Why is Liverpool different from the rest of England? Sounds like an interesting topic. Let's go ahead and get into it, shall we?
Say this city's name almost anywhere in the world, and people will recognise it. Whether that's for its football,
Fabinho's got some space, he's got three up there with him, and he squeezes it through the legs!
its rich history, or the music that was born here. Because as British cities go, few are more iconic than Liverpool.
Yeah.
The friendliness of people here has really taken me back.
From the welcoming nature of the people here to their unique accents, Liverpool feels different. Some Scousers, as people from Liverpool are called, think of it a bit like a city-state, separate from the rest of the country. And many don't identify with England at all, displaying banners like Scouse Not English. Liverpool fans have even been known to boo the British.
I mean, to be fair, the shit that I hear about the Scouse, it's often not very flattering at all.
National anthem at football games. So what's this divide all about, and why has Liverpool ended up so different from the rest of the country? We were here to find out.
We made it to England!
We made it! Yeah, that's what got us here.
We'd made it through the south of the UK and had cycled around almost the entire coast of Wales. We were finally heading back into England to the banks of the Mersey River and the city that sits on it, Liverpool. This is Britain's 7th largest city that 900,000 people call home. It boasts one of the most widely supported football clubs on the planet and was the European Capital of Culture in 2008, alongside Stavanger in Norway. It's also the home of the Beatles, one of the most famous rock bands of all time. But the chances are you know all this, because these are the classic tourist tropes. They're what Liverpool is marketed on. What do locals think makes...
Bro, just that spread out right there of all the... Good God. That's a lot. That's a lot. Not a whole lot of greenery other than trees. And the pitch right there. The pitch right there, and I don't know what that little triangle. Maybe that's a park or something. But like, it's not like a whole lot of green space.
They're what Liverpool is marketed on. What do locals think makes Liverpool Liverpool?
When our backs are against the wall, everybody is there to help you. It doesn't matter which part of the city you come from, what colour you are, what race you are, it makes no difference. Everybody sticks together and takes care of each other.
I think Liverpool's got one of the best personalities. For me, it's how musically alive the city is. It's all just based on music, and their musical history has got, I think, is like, incomparable.
I think it's unique in its people. The people themselves make Liverpool. It's not about Liverpool, it's about the people of Liverpool. And I believe that's what makes us stand out. I think we're unique, I think we're friendly.
I'd say like the football as well, that's a massive part of it. The football
Definitely. Everyone's either Everton or Liverpool, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You can go to any part of Liverpool and you'll always be welcomed. If you're in any type of need, they'd always help you.
Of all the cities in England, Liverpool in particular is known for doing things its own way. There's even a unique name for people from Liverpool, Scousers or Scouse. Why? Well, the story begins with whalers, who came to Liverpool in the 17 and 1800s.
So the only people who could do whaling around Europe were the Norwegians. So we sent for a crew of Norwegian sailors to come over and go up to the Arctic. Obviously there was a Liverpool crew as well, and they joined the ships as well. And these lads, to keep warm, they had their own meal, and they used to have a fire, and they used to put meat They used to put potatoes, they used to put carrots, and it was called lobscouse. So the Liverpool lads, when everything dies down and they joined other ships, and they started to make this lobscouse, just like the Norwegians did. So when people from around the world met sailors, they said, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Liverpool." They go, "Ah, Scouse."
So it's partially, the term Scouse comes partially from a meal made whenever from whaling ships and stuff like that, that the folks from Liverpool were taking. That's interesting. It's interesting, origin of the name.
Back then, Liverpool was a booming trading port. So important that it was sometimes referred to as the New York of Europe.
When you look back, Liverpool, it was incredible. It was an incredible port with lots of activity. Liverpool was known as the second city of the empire, obviously behind the capital London. Because of the trade, there was immense trade, and it was incredible.
The bustling docks produced the unique Scouse accent you'll hear if you visit today. It's unlike any other in the UK, and was a result of the melting pot that this city became, where people from all over the world with different ways of speaking mixed together. And it's most influenced by Irish, Welsh, and Norwegian immigrants. Nowadays, though, Liverpool has an unfair but pretty bad reputation, and people often joke about it being a lawless and dirty city.
Watch your bags. Don't go to Liverpool, they'll steal your hubcaps or your wheels or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard both of those. The stealing thing, like the stealing reputation, the thievery, that's the main thing that I take in here, whether somebody's taking a piss or whether, Liverpool comes up in conversation. It's just, that's a refrain I often hear.
And this is the way Liverpool are portrayed. Unfortunately, Scousers. Why are you going to Liverpool? You end up being beaten up and you're being burgled and being... They always get looked down upon. Always get looked down upon by the press, the English press, unfortunately. For some reason, we don't know. We're looked at down the noses, especially accents.
Frank often has to battle people's preconceptions about him that are based purely on the way he speaks and where he's from.
When I tell them I'm a lecturer, they don't believe me, simply because of my accent.
Well, there's a lot of that happens in the southeastern United States of America, because, if you live from about North Carolina to about Texas, a lot of folks have the same thing with accent. If you've got any kind of drawl or you got any kind of twang or anything like that, that's oftentimes the misconception or the preconception that folks have just by hearing someone's accent.
It's gone now that it's water off a duck's back to me. It's the way it is. It's just the way people perceive Liverpool. Liverpool's got a terrible image, even today.
In reality, the problems that any major city faces, crime, litter, and so on, are no worse here than anywhere else. So how did Liverpool go from being the second city of the British Empire to one that has so often been looked down upon by other parts of Britain, where so many of its residents feel Scouse rather than English? Well, Liverpool has always been a bit independent. Part of that can be put down to immigration, particularly from Ireland following the Irish famines in the 17 and 1800s, which really changed the demographics here. At one point in the 1950s, a quarter of Liverpool's population was Irish-born. It also has such a large Welsh population that it's sometimes jokingly called the capital of North Wales. All these people from different places, some with less than stellar opinions of the rest of England because of tension between the English and Irish and Welsh, gave the city a distinct sense of self.
I was gonna say, I mean, especially being number one, a city of trade, right? You've got this maritime route that comes through there for trade. But the fact that you've got people that immigrated from Ireland and from Wales to live there, it certainly sounds like a melting pot, and the influence is taken. But also, you're gonna have people that identify, not only probably with the city that they've claimed now as their home, but also probably where they moved away from, or where their family moved away from before them. So I can imagine how any kind of strained relations as far as England as a whole with those countries might that's an interesting crossroads of a city, just due to those two factors right there in and of itself. Like that, okay. Kind of an interesting dichotomy.
But it was the 1900s that really drove a wedge between Liverpool and the rest of England. And it began with a general strike.
So in 1911, there was a general strike here. They wanted decent wages. They wanted some sort of parity with other cities. They wanted to live a life rather than struggle. And that was a massive struggle that they had, and a massive struggle against the government, because the government at the time sent up 50,000 armed troops. They sent for 6,000 police from Birmingham and Leeds to take control, because the police here in Liverpool said, we can't fight against our own people. There were 2 dockers shot dead by troops. Everything had stopped. Everything, from the dock workers, they stopped. Everything, railway, everything was stopped. And Churchill, he actually sent up 2 frigates to train its guns on the city, just in case, because they...
Huh? Frigates training guns on the... Bro, that is a wild... And the thing about it is, like, people have long memories. That happened in 1911. But that's something that not only are you going to be told about as a kid if you're born in the next generation, but more than likely anything that sparks off during, if you're young or during your lifetime, and you've heard stories from grandparents who went through it, or aunts and uncles that went through it, bro, it's just going to be further confirmation of whatever bias that come from it. That's what, and troops, police, and frigates with guns on the city. Holy dog crap.
Said we can't afford anarchy to spread out into the country. So we were on our own there, and unfortunately it was squashed. Did the workers get anything? No. They never achieved much, unfortunately, during that particular strike. So it was over by September. The strike was over.
Let's jump forward a little closer to the present.
The 80s.
Almost 40 years since the end of World War II and the independence of India, and the British Empire was long gone. Add to that changes in shipping practices, like containerization, and Liverpool's docks were becoming less and less important compared to other ports like Dover. Less trade meant fewer jobs, and unemployment and poverty skyrocketed to some of the highest rates in the UK. The city was suffering. Enter Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of Britain through the 80s from 1979 to 1990. And this is where it gets dark. Because rather than invest in Liverpool to get it back on its feet, her government planned a strategy of managed decline.
What the Conservative government wanted to do He wanted to manage decline a city, and Liverpool was chosen. Don't invest in it, don't do anything. It's like getting a balloon, blowing it up and just letting it out slowly. And you just see it slowly degenerate into nothing. The Conservative MP, she said, I'd like to build a wall around Liverpool to show future generations how we lived or how they lived.
We got some messed up politicians over here. Y'all do too, though. Like, wow. Managed to decline. So I can understand, you know, if a coal mine and a town is built around the coal mine. If a coal mine, for whatever reason, either declines and is no longer operational, either because all the coal's been mined out, or, you know, changes in economics and the way the world takes and gets its energy. Okay, that's one thing. Having a government manage the decline of the town that surrounds that makes 100% sense. You have a port city here that with investment, I'm sure you could have probably took and put somewhere, even if it's just a smaller spot, some type of port or some type of container port somewhere there. Or taking, instead of doing that, taking, you know, put investment in a different way, because it's, you could take the tourism that could be drawn there just from the simple fact of the Beatles, it being a you know, a coastal city and everything like that. A managed decline of a place with so much going for it makes absolutely no sense.
And that was shocking. That was shocking to manage decline a city as strong as Liverpool.
Some in the government saw the 1981 Toxteth riots in Liverpool, which were sparked by racism in the Merseyside police force, as an opportunity to start this managed decline, or strategic abandonment.
More than 100 white and coloured youths fought a pitched battle against the police. At daylight, the police began a series of charges to break up the gangs massed in front of them.
All this unrest and the government's response pushed Liverpool even further from the rest of England. But for a lot of people, it was 1989 that was the last straw. The year of the deadliest sporting event in British history, the Hillsborough disaster. At the semi-final of the FA Cup between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest in Sheffield, Yorkshire, police mismanagement of a crowd of Liverpool fans caused a crush. It took the lives of 97 people and injured another 766.
Good God. I've seen people take and react to this. I have not. If you'd like to see me react to it, let me know. It's just, for me, that's a very morbid thing to take and react to. Like, you have to toe the line between curiosity on what happened and respect for those that lost their lives and the families that are still, it's going to be fresh in their memory. 89, but it's still, that's, you'd have to get 2 or 3 lifetimes away to really, at least in my opinion, take and be where it's not so fresh in the memory for many.
It was the police force's fault, but they covered up their failings, feeding false stories to the press, blaming hooliganism and drunkenness of the fans themselves for the disaster.
And then there was the Hillsborough disaster, which happened on the 15th of April, 1989, and I was actually there. I'm a survivor of Hillsborough. There was, now it's, you know, very recently another victim had died, and it used to be 96, now it's 97, because the coroner came out and said that this lad who had recently died has became the 97th unlawful victim. Unlawful.
That's insane.
So it was, you know, people are still fighting for justice, unfortunately. And it seemed that everybody, you know, turned their backs on Liverpool. Everybody. I'm talking about the whole of the country. And you had the Sun newspaper who came out with the truth, though. It was shocking what they were actually saying about Liverpool fans, and they caused it, and they were drunken yobs, and they were urinating on, you know, the police who were trying to help, and they were also pickpocketing the dead.
So they just took and that it sounds like they just took and leaned into the prejudices that already held against folks in Liverpool. That's just absolutely criminal.
Which was scandalous, to say the least. It was scandalous to say these things. And it's shocking to think how people turned their backs, especially against the 97. And there still isn't justice, albeit that they were unlawfully killed. And, you know, people still believe that it was the Liverpool fans, but they've been found not guilty of it. They've been exonerated from what the Sun called the truth. And yet they never really apologised. They should have had a front page, and the Sun newspaper is actually banned here.
I don't blame you for doing that. Like, that's insane.
So now you have a big Liverpool banner saying Scouse Not English, only because of the press and the bad name Liverpool gets.
The lies about Hillsborough were built on negative stereotypes about Scouse people and Liverpool. And it worked. The police spent 30 years blaming the victims, and a lot of people believed what they were saying. When the police force eventually had to pay out compensation for their lies to bereaved families, lawyers called it one of the largest and most shameful cover-ups by a police force in history. Of all these events, the Hillsborough disaster and the injustice that followed are the most fresh in Liverpool's collective memory. It was only in 2016 that an investigation officially placed the blame on the emergency services.
What? 2016? I don't ever want to hear another English person in my comments talk about how we're backwards in the US. Shut up. Shut up. 2016, 89 to 2016. And it's just figured out due to investigation in shut up, you hypocrite. That's backward as fuck. That is just absolutely astounding. Oh my God. It took that long to figure out that, oh, the police were lying. Really? Really? Bro. That's insane, dude. Like, that's 100% insane. To be honest, I don't know why that should surprise me. Reading about Grenfell Towers and the way that was handled, this shouldn't be a surprise at all.
So now, over 100 years since Winston Churchill sent gunships up the Mersey River, this city is set apart from the rest of England. And this is what happens when people who feel Scouse Not English hear the British national anthem.
Makes sense. Makes 100% sense now.
A lot of people wonder why Liverpool has been treated this way over the last century. Maybe the London press didn't like the city's rebellious nature. Or perhaps classism is to blame, since it's always been a very working class city and an epicentre for the fight for workers' rights. Whatever the reason, Liverpool has been through a lot. And yes, it has the same problems as any major city. But it's about time it was recognised for what it is, not what the media makes it out to be. One of the country's most musical and artistic cities, home to some of the friendliest people in England. The city that gave us the first ever passenger railway, the very first X-ray department, and one of the first ever wireless radio broadcasts. A hub of culture, home to the country's oldest Chinatown, built by people from all over the world, that saw the highest of highs in its heyday and is bouncing back from the lowest of lows it endured in the 20th century.
Beautiful,
It's
beautiful
incredible what
buildings,
Liverpool have
modern
achieved
and
and
old.
what's gone out. But unfortunately, we get no credit. And this is what people, they really need to be educated about Liverpool instead of having this negative look at Liverpool. And that's the way I am. And I've always shouted Liverpool from the tops of the roofs. I've been asked, what does it mean to me to be a Scouser? Well, Scousers are very, very proud people. When I go away and people ask, where are you from? I say Liverpool. They go, oh, you're a Scouser? Yes, of course I'm a Scouser. I don't put on accents. It's the way I speak, because people have said, do you put this accent on? I'm very, very proud to be a Scouser. I will just leave it at that.
Fascinating, fascinating video. And the fact that, I mean, everything I've heard, other than the folks I talk to that live in Liverpool, or that, you know, don't try to take the piss. Like that is the whole thing with the thievery and the lawlessness and stuff like that. Like, you know, you park there overnight, liable to take and come back out, your hubcaps and your tires and everything will be gone and everything, right? That's definitely one of those things that I've heard personally, just talking to folks. Such a rich history, though. Absolutely rich history. And it sounds like the identity, and it would seem like a lot of the identity is born just simply from the, you know, a lot of it from the Welsh and Irish and Norwegian immigrants that have come there. But the British government's own actions, it seems like, have just as much and probably more of an effect on the reason why the mindset is what it is there that's portrayed in the video. It's managed decline. That's not a concept that doesn't make sense for a spot like that. Like I said, if it's a place where, like, there's a city that's built up and it's built off of either industry, like it's a landlocked manufacturing city or something like that, and the manufacturers or the factories have closed down or shipped off to different countries, and the government decided to take and do managed decline of the city, that would make sense, right? At the very least, it's landlocked. So unless you bring new industry in, it's going to take and be just a place of disrepair for the most part. And you're probably going to have people making an exodus out of there anyways to find more opportunity. Managed decline would make sense. Same thing for, like, if it's a city or a town is built around a coal mine or something like that. But for a port city, especially one with a rich history, while things might change within shipping, there's other ways that you could take and invest to actually kind of bring the gleam back a little bit. It sounds like that might have been a strategy for Liverpool itself, born strictly out of the prejudices and, you know, the history as well. I'm going to have to look at Hillsborough just because I didn't realize it wasn't until 2016. That's just, to me, absolutely insane. Just hearing that. Like, it's, oh, and it's not like we haven't had stuff here where it's like, oh, 20 years later, oh yeah, no, that was a cover up. There's corruption. Not like people that seen it couldn't be like, hey, that's not right. It's just the truth of the matter. But the fact that so many deaths, so many injuries, so many lives affected, and it took that long, to me, is just mind-boggling a little bit. Interesting video. I like this video. As for all my videos, original video link is in the description. Go check it out without me talking over it. Show the channel some love. Just the two videos that are here for the end screen on Israel and Syria, and also the Isle of Man, which might have to take and watch that as well. So yeah, this was very interesting. Y'all go check out that channel. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Y'all be good to each other. Love yourselves. Peace.